Welcome to Fulk It, special solo edition. Got a little rant, and I've done one of these before. It took about 15 minutes. That's what I'm guessing this one will be. If I wanted to rant on it for like 15 hours, I probably could. It could be a crazy episode, and people would think I was weird. But the topic I've seen come up a lot more frequently again. It's not the first time I've seen it come up frequently, but it's about AI and the name intelligence in AI, and how when people are talking about it, um, it's only natural for people to think, AI like science fiction. It's only natural because it's part of common culture. When you say AI, this common understanding of the world, when you say it through movies and stories, we've all got some idea about what it means. And it's usually something that's actually intelligent, but maybe man-made. And in this case, we associate it with computers. Um, However, the people who are building these tools, they know that it's not really smart and it's not defendable to call it intelligence. But we call it AI all the time. And as this bubble has unfolded, we've seen big companies with a lot of money use AI as marketing terms. Venture capital funds small business that use AI. It's almost a necessity to say you do AI, and it has been for a couple of years at least. If you're any kind of small startup and you're in the technology space, you've got to say, well, you got to answer the question, do you do AI? The whole field of ethical AI grew up around this concept of movie AI. We need movie ethics, maybe people. There are companies that started that were going to be HR for AI. Like you're going to have these AI workers in your company, and you need an HR department that knows how to handle them, as if there is intelligence behind them. So, on another little video clip I did, I proposed don't say AI, say statistical model. So if you say we need trustworthy AI with guardrails, actually what you're saying is we need trustworthy statistical models where people can understand the output. Because if it's statistical, there's a chance you get the wrong answer, right? There's a chance your model that you built of your data is wrong. And just to give an example, like if you're building some model, let's say about a person, people have features, like that define us. We might have race, ethnicity, religion, height, weight, eye color, where you live, your address, your income, your education level. Um, there's enormous number of features just like that for people. And if you aggregate all these features together of a person and you have some training data about, let's say, their mortgage payment history, you could build a model that says this type of person is likely to pay off their mortgage. And by this type of person, you would mean those features that you chose. So obviously, feature selection here is very important because if you pick race as one of your features, that's potentially going to skew your model. And then you would have other problems with like your address. Your address may give away the income distribution. So if you do a poor job of selecting your training data, and it primarily comes from certain neighborhoods that have certain ethnicities or religions, you can completely skew your model results. So if that model then is used to say approve or disapprove a mortgage application, if it if you overrepresented like that certain religion A lives in this neighborhood where they don't make as much money, and then you get an application from someone belonging to religion A who does make enough money and would normally have every other feature that they would need to get an application, they can get denied because your model encoded this knowledge about the world incorrectly. So feature selection, very important model building. Selection of your training data, very important in model building. Being able to understand the domain, where the model goes, like how do you give mortgage applications? What are the laws about giving mortgage applications? What will I have to do to get a representative sample based on how normally it's done today? So it's really difficult to build a good model that's useful in the real world, um, and and not encode bias. What we've seen though now recently in the past few years with this bubble is something different. We've seen people claiming they're going to build real intelligence using large language models, using deep neural nets. So in some cases, we've also got these deep fake videos that come from a different type of model, but similar technology under the hood, where the idea is throw every bit of data you can get at it. And for the language models, it's throw every Reddit post, every, Facebook post, every piece of text and Yelp and Google reviews. That's what this language model is built on in many cases. Wikipedia entries. So you would, if you know this about the model and how it was trained, wouldn't necessarily think, okay, it's a good idea to use one of these, general purpose language models to do something like tell me if summarize my doctor's visit history, or predict if I'm going to have cancer based on some features, that I have, some diagnosis. But people propose this all the time. Similarly, they propose, hey, let's rewrite my code base, or something like, I'll code with a language model, but what this language model knows under the hood is code that it was scraped off of the internet, or maybe proprietary code that it stole. It doesn't have any understanding of how to code in any language, structural programming. It only has words. It understands words, the word order. What order do words normally come in all of this data that I've scraped off the internet and stolen and paid for in a couple of rare cases? So I say call AI a statistical model. Do not call it AI. Just stop, right? Like, calling it AI lets people skip step zero, defining it, defining intelligence. Define what does it mean to even be able to build an intelligence? How do you say, all right, I'm going to build an intelligence that's able to answer questions like, do I have cancer? Like, what does intelligent mean? How do I test for intelligence? What are you? It's really difficult, of course, but if you skip that step and then you call AI by its movie name AI, you've just basically built a staircase that's got no foundation. It's just floating in midair. So that's why we get these wild conversations about trustworthy AI, ethical AI. Hey, we need, like doomers who are going to say AI is going to like blow up the world, and then hopeful people who are out there like, oh no, AI will save us all. All these wild conversations about AI is like a thing instead of it's a statistical model representing word order in the case of the LLM. And it does not ground the conversation. So in a nice feature of academic writing usually is you ground the conversation carefully in definitions, and then you reference earlier work that also grounded in the same definition or similar, and you note why you're doing it this way, and then you expand on that the prior knowledge with a little piece of your knowledge. This helps, get rid of these grandiose claims. Like, why do we have these grandiose claims about AI? Well, there's no foundation. It's just a stairway to heaven with no. I did a song about this on one of my blogs. I did a version of Stairway to Heaven about AI. But anyway, there is no base level. You have to jump up to step one. And I've seen it firsthand multiple times where if you skip asking the hard questions about How are you defining this? What are you doing this for? What methodology are you going to use to get to your version of intelligence? Why do you think? Like, what foundational engineering principle gets you to thinking that you can answer this type of question with this tool? If you skip that, you just end up in fantasy land. Like you're having these conversations and they sound important and it sounds like you're having these deep philosophical thoughts about what it means to be a human being and what it means to have intelligence and how we need to protect with guardrails and blah 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 blah. You skip the basics. You skip the basics. You don't have those conversations. Have the basics. So call AI statistical model. Every time you see an article, a story, a news thing, every time somebody sends you an email about a conference upcoming and we're going to talk about how we're going to apply AI to blah, 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 say, how are we going to apply the statistical model of word orders to my problem? How are we going to apply the statistical model of English language word ordering, primarily based out of Reddit posts, YouTube comments, and Wikipedia? How does that apply to my problem domain? All right, so that's step one. Stop calling it AI. It really confuses things. And step two, so kind of like leading into this other part of it. Human beings are intelligent. Like, however we define intelligent, we're the baseline because that's who we are and what we know. There's other intelligent life all over the planet, and it's precious. Like, no matter how you look at it, we are on a rock hurtling through outer space. We haven't found any other intelligence. You know, the intelligence, the brains that are on this rock could be it in the universe. I mean, maybe it's it in the galaxy. You know, maybe it's the solar system, maybe just outside of the solar system. In any case, we're talking about millions of light years away for the next intelligence. Don't you think it's worth protecting us? Protecting all of the intelligent life around us? Like, we just spent in a mad dash economic bubble a massive amount of energy, resources, money to try to build a general purpose intelligence. And you can argue that, oh, we probably won't get to general intelligence now. Okay, yeah, okay. Some people are coming around to the idea, but a couple of years ago they weren't. They were talking about all programmers being gone. All right. They were talking about it's completely worth it to steal copyright intellectual property off the internet, to destroy artists, musicians, writers, to destroy anybody that had ever produced anything original, destroy them because we were going to produce general intelligence in silicon chips out of GPUs. That was the whole point. And then businesses were like, hey, well, we can fire people. We can fire people. We can give ourselves stock buybacks. We can give ourselves bonus money. We can cut head count. Wall Street loves it, right? But it was bullshit. It was obviously bullshit to anybody that was paying attention. It was bullshit for sure right now. So we see the backtracking. Imagine if instead of doing that, we said, wow, you know what? Let's take a step back first and make sure it's possible. Can we even get to general intelligence? Okay, so we can't, obviously. We would have figured that out. And then we said, okay, well, what can we do? Oh, look, it's very dangerous to our kids could easily cheat with this tool to put this out into the wild with no barriers. It's very dangerous to flood the entire world with the ability to create generic fake images and videos for multiple reasons. We've incentivized our kids here to cheat. We've incentivized college students, youth to cheat. That hurts us. It hurts all of us because those brains on this planet are it. It's our job to educate them. We need everybody educated on the basics, what we know, what has humankind figured out about the world, the universe, and the math and the science. The humanities part of who we are to everybody that can. Like, make our brains as sharp as possible, raise our collective human intelligence. But instead, we decided to dump hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars into a garbage technology that all it does is hurt us, hurt our kids' chance at education, hurt everything in the future because we will all get older and need the youth to be educated. And it was after a wild, pointless pursuit of a general intelligence that's impossible to get. People are still doing it right now. People are still very upset. Not only does it hurt us through our brains, through, we don't use them, we don't learn. We're basically just looking up stuff in a database that's easy to fuzzy, match and through English text. We have seen time and time again people talking to these things for psychotherapy, for like they need human professional help. But instead of getting people human professional help, we dumped hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars into building the impossible thing that we'll never call AI again. That doesn't make any sense to me. It makes none. It's not something you can justify. We want to put that effort, all that venture capital funding, all of that money that came out of big tech from selling us ads, all the ad dollars they've rolled in, into building up people, educating our youth, making our brains smarter and sharper, because the world is kind of complicated. It's tough. And cheating with LLMs to get ahead in the business world just makes you dumber. To get ahead in your educational fields, it just makes you dumber. To get ahead in medical, let's say you're a doctor, you want your brain to be sharp. Your patients want your brain to be sharp. And if you're having problems, which all of us do, and you're talking to a chatbot that's basically tuned to keep you talking and to be cordial, using just spit out words that it picked off the internet with no foundational, like education under it, no steps, no training, no ability to pivot or understand. It's just word salad. It's like slop cannon. That's my favorite term for it. You can't ask people to use that for therapy. You'll end up with what we have now. People having psychotic breaks from reality. People anthropomorphizing this tool, acting like it's real, and it's how our brains work. Like the people who built it knew that's how our brains worked. They knew it. They tuned it to be as much like it looks like a human output as possible. They made it that way so that it could pass the Turing test. And then they got confused. Then they thought they really did build intelligence. They couldn't explain why. It was a feeling because you play with these tools enough, you start to feel like, oh, maybe I just built intelligence. Maybe we just need more data the whole time. That was it. We just needed more data, neural net. In the meantime, we all pay the price because this thing is out of control. So I'm asking everybody, go back to step zero. Don't say those two letters. Just call it a statistical model and see if what you're talking about still makes sense when you say statistical model. And until then, keep your brain sharp and Fulk it.